Hey guys, Michael here. Today I have something special to share with you. I am going to compare two top contending small form dual laser engravers for you all. I have the xTool F1 and I have the LaserPecker LP4. So in this video we're going to go through and check out the differences between the two. We're going to check out the performance of them and also the accessories and just kind of compare what they look like, what the results look like, and I'll let you be the judge of which one you like better. Stick around, let's get to it. So physically these lasers are similar in size. However, when you first get them out of the box, there is quite a bit of difference. On the F1, it comes fully assembled. There's just some tape holding onto the shield, but it's fully assembled out of the box. On the LP4, you do have to assemble it. You have to attach the base to this riser motor in the back. You have to attach the laser head to the motor, and then you have to attach this shield here. So there is a little bit of more work that you need to do on the LP4 to get you up and running. Also, when it comes to the footprint, the F1 is a little bit smaller. As you can see here, the LP4 is a little bit wider. The LP4 does have a bigger working area as opposed to the F1. Now, when it comes to safety, you can see there's a little bit of difference when it comes to the shields here. This shield raises and lowers with the motor. So if I lift this up, you can see this shield is actually going up with the laser, and you can do the same thing. You can lower it down and do the same thing. Or on this one, the shield is up when you put material on there, and you push it down, and the shield is closed. So this one actually protects you more than this one, because if this one has material in here and because of the focus, it can't touch the material. It's going to expose you more to the laser radiation than the F1. They both come with a 10-watt diode laser, and they both have a 2-watt infrared laser. The F1 can engrave at 4,000 millimeters per second, whereas the LP4 can engrave at 2,000 millimeters per second. Another thing I want to mention when it comes to the safety, they both have an emergency stop. The F1 stop button is on the side here. You'll just press it to stop it, and you can rotate it to make it resume. On the LP4, there's a button on top of the handle. You just press it once. That light turns red, and this will not operate while it's red, and then you can press it again to enable it or turn off the safety. So they both have that quick stop in case there's an emergency. Also, on the back of the F1, it has the exhaust fan that goes outward. It comes with a hose, so you can hook this up to an air purifier if you have one. On the LP4, the exhaust is built into the side of the shield. Let me take this off. As you can see right here, there is a fan. And this shield is actually held on by magnets. That's how easy that is to take off. So that's really handy to have in case you need to get that out of the way. When you're doing rotary tools and stuff like that, sometimes you'll need to not even use the shield just because it's in the way and you don't want to use that. You can just take that off with the magnet. Whereas the F1, you'll just have to pick this up out of the way and just leave that up in the air just like that. As far as the bases go, they both have removable bases. You can take the plates out of the base of them. Taking the base out allows you to take the laser to the material instead of taking the material to the laser. So you can pick this up and take it to somewhere and put it on top of something you want to engrave. And the same thing with the F1. They both have that capability. Both of these lasers can be controlled by either computer or by an app. The F1, it does connect to your Wi-Fi. So there's a little bit more setup to connect this one. The LP4 was pretty easy. You just install the app, fire it up, and says find this. It found it and it connected right away. Whereas the F1, I did have a little bit more trouble connecting it. Maybe there's a Bluetooth option, but just right off the bat, just trying to figure it out real quick with the application, it wanted me to do the Wi-Fi connection. So this one did take a little bit longer. Let me pack these up, head out to the shop, and let's get to engraving. All right, the first thing we're going to do is test out the engraving speed head to head. And I have these anodized aluminum business cards we're going to engrave on. I'm engraving the exact same picture, exact same size. All right, now we're going to start them at the same time, or try to start them at the same time. However, because the software between the two is a little bit different, it's going to be hard to do the timing of it, but I will do my best to start them off at the same time. Okay, the F1 is ready, and the LP4 is going. Look how fast that is compared to this one. And we're still going. I hate to speed this up, but this is taking a while. There we go. That one's finally finished. So we have the same engraving, and this one actually doesn't even look as good, but the same engraving on two different cards. And as you can see, the F1 is so much faster than the LP4 when it comes to laser engraving. Next thing we're going to test out are these faux leather patches, and we're going to engrave on them using the diode laser. I apologize for not catching the beginning of that, but as you can tell, of course, the F1 engraves much faster. Now, I messed up the settings on this. However, on the LaserPecker, I did test this before, and this was done on the LaserPecker previously. As you can see, both lasers engrave the same on the faux leather. However, the F1 is much faster. Speaking of faux leather, when it comes to engraving on it, it's very smoky. So what I want to do is take a piece and put it inside each engraver and test the ability for the engraver to exhaust the smoke away from the operator. I have a piece inside here. I have the fan turned on and I have the shield on. As you can see, this shield doesn't go all the way down, but that's by design. That's the way the LP4 is set up. Within focus, that's how big a gap there is. Now, let me engrave this piece and let's see if I can capture the smoke, if it exhausts from underneath here or if it exhausts out the back. Let's just take a look and see what it looks like. Now we'll do the same test on the F1. The F1, as you can see, the cover goes all the way down to the bottom. So I do not expect any smoke to escape from here. It's only going to come out the exhaust. And let's try that out right now. Okay, next up I'm going to make some test cuts with the two. I'm going to cut a piece of 3mm black acrylic, and we're also going to test out cutting some 3mm mahogany. Do want to point out that the F1 did come with a honeycomb cutting bed, and so I'm going to use this cutting bed on the F1, and I'm going to use the same cutting bed over here on the LP4 so that it's an even comparison when I test out the two different lasers. Alright, here's the results of the two cuts. This side is on the F1 and this side is on the LP4. Taking a look at the edges. Let's see if I can make this. There you go. Taking a look at the edges. They're both really clean. You do see a little bit more lines on the LP4 than you do the F1. However, they both came out really good looking. Looking at the basswood cutting, so the edges look the same. Both of them came out really well. So there's not a big difference in the cutting, except for just coming up with the settings. I ran this one 3 times, whereas this one I ran twice. And I ran this one, I believe, 5 times, and this one I think I ran 2 or 3 times. This is too big for both laser engravers. What I'm going to do is take the laser to the material. So both of these have the ability, since they're lightweight, you can pick them up and put them on top of what you want to engrave. And we're going to do that now. All right, there you go. Engraving on the surface that you put the laser on top of. So here's one thing I want to point out. On the LaserPecker software, when you're framing, you can actually move the object around and the frame follows it. So it's like a real-time movement of the framing feature. On the desktop, if I'm using the desktop application, I can actually resize this and the framing square actually resizes with the object. Whereas xTool, you have to go into the software, you have to turn on framing, look at it, stop the framing, modify it, hit framing again to see what that new framing location or size looks like. So this one really has an advantage over the framing feature that I think xTool needs to make a note of. However, one advantage that this one has, the xTool has over this one, is on the LaserPecker, if you make any type of adjustment, changing the size, speed, depth, whatever adjustment you make on this, you cannot process it without first going to framing, waiting for the framing light to fire up and look at it, and then you can process the engraving. Whereas xTool, you can make adjustments to it and just hit send and it'll automatically go. This one, I love the framing feature, being able to move the object, but this one, I love the fact that you can actually make an adjustment and hit process again without having to go through and wait for the framing process. The last thing I wanted to compare is the rotaries, the LaserPecker rotary versus the RA2 Pro. They also have slide capabilities where you can have a longer piece and it will slide underneath the laser. However, I do not have the slide attachments for the F1, so I'm unable to demonstrate that and test that out between the two lasers. All right, so let's talk about the differences and the similarities between the LaserPecker 4 and the F1.
All right, so first off, the similarities. As I stated before, both of these are dual laser engravers. They have a 10-watt laser and they also have a 2-watt infrared laser. So they both have that capability. They're both portable, as you can see here. They both have a handle on top and they both weigh about the same amount and they can be used to carry with you to craft shows and whatnot. They are both limited on the capacity of them. So each one has this one actually has a smaller footprint than this one does. You can get some sliding tables that slide inside here and it will make the material like a long skinny piece. It would work, but you're still limited to how deep the material can go inside here. So they're limited on the footprint on the working area that you can work with on these lasers. Both of them focus the same way. You line up 2 dots and when the dots touch each other, it's in focus. And both of these work similar So this one has buttons on the top. You press the button and it raises it, a motor raises it up, and the other button lowers it down. And on this one, you turn the knob, it raises, and turn the knob and it lowers. I did notice that this one, if you're raising it up and you let it go to the max, it keeps trying to go higher and higher and it won't go. So you're putting a bind on the motor, so you just have to keep an eye on that. I do know that when you're raising and lowering, I prefer the LaserPecker because this one is sort of automatic, as in you press the button once, it'll beep and it'll just jump down just a little bit. If you hold the button down just for like a second and let go, it's in automatic mode and it'll constantly go down until you press the button for it to stop, or it reaches either the bottom or the top depending on which direction you're going to go. However, when you had that shield on there, it will crush that shield and try to keep on going down. You can see this thing twisting and binding. You really need to keep an eye on that when you have this shield on here. Talking about the shields that I stated before, I don't like this shield at all. I don't like it. I used it maybe once or twice and decided this is not for me. I pulled it off and used my glasses the entire time. This shield it gets in the way, and when you're in focus, this shield pretty much covers the material. And you need to, like, let's say you're doing a business card and you put it in there and you engrave it, and you need to get it out and do another one. Well, this shield is in the way. You have to lift it up, pull the business card, put it back in, and adjust the focus again. Whereas the shield on this one, it's much easier to work with. You just lift it up, you're not touching the material, business card out, business card in, and shield down. So you're not actually getting in the way, where this one kind of gets in the way, you can't actually pull it out of the way. The framing feature. So I love the framing feature of both of them. However, on the F1, you hear the buzzing sound. It's just a loud, kind of annoying buzzing sound. And also it kind of dims and comes back, or shuts off and comes back. It's just kind of weird. And this one's much brighter, even though I did adjust the brightness of the framing feature of this one. This one just looks better, it's steadier, and it's much more quiet. Not a knock on either one of them, I'm just pointing that out, you know, just kind of comparing the two machines. Let's talk about differences. Number one is speed. So the max speed of this is 2,000 millimeters per second, where this one is 200% more at 4,000 millimeters per second. So this one's considerably faster than this one is. So one thing that the LP4 has that the F1 does not is a touchscreen. Now the touchscreen, I don't know if I'll find it really handy to use unless I'm actually storing my engravings on here. You can pause the engraving and start the engraving. You can actually put this to sleep, but if you can store engravings in here and, you know, kind of scroll through the engravings. You can also switch between the infrared and the diode with this, but I never really found myself using the touchscreen that much. But this one does have a touchscreen and this one does not. So when it comes to protecting this laser and not letting other people, small hands, use this, accidentally turn it on, the F1 does have an actual lockout. It has a small little USB dongle in the back, kind of like what you would use with a wireless mouse. With this out, this will not operate. The LP4 does not have that, but the F1 does have the ability to lock out the machine. This one actually has a true power switch. On the back side, it's a little toggle switch, turning it off and on. This one does not have a power switch. I tried to find one everywhere on this thing, and the only thing I could find was to turn this off, you have to unplug it. So you can put this one to sleep by pressing the button on the touchscreen. However, you just wake this thing up by pressing the touchscreen again. There's no way to actually turn off the power like you can on the F1. So one more thing I want to share with you. So this is just a box. You know, you can engrave something that you put inside of it. You can fit on underneath it. You know, take the base plate out and put it on top of something. That's what all this one can do. This one can do that and a little bit more. The ability with this laser head is you can actually unscrew this knob right here and slide it out a little bit, and you can actually rotate this at different angles and lock it in place. So if you have something at a weird angle, or if you want to engrave your wall, you can actually do this and you can actually lock it in place where it will engrave something vertically. So this is a little bit more advanced as far as, you know, positioning goes compared to the F1. So talking about accessories between the two, I did test out the tumbler rotary tool to engrave this tumbler here. Using the F1, I was actually surprised how close I was to the limit of being able to fit the RE2 Pro in there and engrave on this tumbler. With the LaserPecker, I couldn't fit in here at all until I realized in the box there's actually an additional step you add to this. So it's like about a 3-inch piece. You take this off, insert it between the two, and it lifts up this laser head that much more. And that let me fit their rotary tool inside this one. I was able to engrave on this. I know we're not comparing rotary tools, but I do want to say I did use the RE2 Pro on xTool's F1, and I used the rotary tool, LaserPecker's rotary tool, on the LP4. And I do want to say that the rotary tool on the LaserPecker, it's like a Cadillac. The thing is a work of art. It's well thought out. It's really put together well. You don't have to prop it up underneath material to make it actually level when you're actually leveling a cup. The end piece, it actually holds the tumbler up. It fits in a track that actually rides inside the rotary tool, and it's automatically centered on your piece. It's not a loose piece. You have to kind of line up. This rotary tool from LaserPecker is really, really nice. Not saying RE2 Pro is not nice. I love the RE2 Pro. I have one myself. I love it, but I do want to say they made a really top-notch rotary tool. Now, speaking of rotary tool, I did make this cup. Let me show you what this looks like. Now, this is the LP4 on this side, and this is the F1 on this side. Now, again, it was kind of hard figuring out the settings. This is, totally new for both of these to me. However, the F1 did come out shinier than the LP4. It could just be a learning curve on my side, then I need to adjust the settings. However, they both look great when it comes to engraving on a tumbler. So the big question is, which laser engraver is better? The xTool F1 or the LaserPecker LP4? They both have advantages and disadvantages. They both have different features. They both use different software. Let me know in the comments below which one you like better. I personally have a favorite, but I want to know what's your favorite. I appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you next time.